Morning, everyone. So, welcome to TechEd. Welcome to the search session. My name is Steve Letford. I work for Microsoft as the SharePoint specialist based up in Auckland. And my friend here is Paul Kelly.
So I'm from the Sydney office, and I work specifically from the FAR subsidiary that was acquired by Microsoft. So I'm here to back up Steve. Just on any really sticky questions you may have.
So we've only got an hour session today, so I don't know if you guys noticed, but they've knocked it down from an hour 15 to an hour. So there's no time for questions, really. So what we're thinking, if there's any questions, then what we do is we can just either go outside or it's supposed to be we'll go off to the recharge bar. But the recharge bar is on the other side, so if there's just a handful of us, we'll just hang around that side. And if there's loads of us, then we'll go over to the recharge bar. We'll make the call afterwards. So first of all, has anyone installed Fast? Prize for installing it? So you've got to install it, guys. You win prizes. Okay, and so the only other thing is this big thing here. Anyone play games? So if there's any gamers, anyone installed Fast? So we'll give this away afterwards. If anyone hangs around and there's some questions with Paul, and we'll give this away. Okay. So there's just a couple of slides. I'm not going to don't try and read it all. There's loads of words. But all this is saying there's a bunch of virtual training come up. So if anyone wants to do the virtual training, I attended it in person in Redmond, and it was fantastic. And they're doing it virtually. So if you want to attend that, then come and talk to me or Paul afterwards, and we'll give you all the details. So ignore the words on the slide because there's too many. It's just about training. And there's also costs on there. Ignore the costs, so I don't know, they change, right? They fluctuate. So I'm not sure what. If you talk to us afterwards, we'll tell you the exact price. Have you seen this? Did they talk about this in the keynote? Okay, so this is Tweet a Nugget. This is how you win more stuff. So you come along to any session. If you're a tweeter, #10s, #nugget, what you learned during that session, and then there's prizes to win. And also, if you fill out the evaluations at the end, go to the same website, the TechEd website, fill out your evaluation, you go in the spot draw. Okay, so that's enough of the marketing and the slides that mean nothing apart from telling stuff. Okay, so here's the agenda. We're just going to quickly go through why I should use Fast. So there's lots of questions still as why I should use SharePoint, or when I should use SharePoint, when I should use Fast. So we're just going to touch on that, hopefully clarify it for a few people. I'm not going to install it. My first intentions when I was looked at all this, naively, I thought, well, I'll install it and just take you through the install. It's not going to work. I haven't got long enough time. You just end up watching the hourglass going around, so it doesn't make any sense. So I'm just to touch on a few of the kind of nuggets around the install, or what I thought was quite interesting or took me by surprise. And there's a slide at the back that's got all the resources, so all the links you need to install it. So that makes more sense to me. Just download the document and follow step by step. We will talk about the design and scale, just so as when you are installing it, you've got the kind of an overview in mind of how it gets installed and how you might design and scale it out. We'll talk about the processing pipeline, some stuff around linguistics and relevance. And then look at reporting. Okay, so why should I use Fast? Okay, so the first thing that we talk about is a kind of more of a conversational approach. So has anyone seen things like the thumbnails? So it's more visualization when I'm talking, when I'm doing my search, I get more visualization of my results and how to refine those results. We have things called deep refiners. So you'll see across lots of search engines, and SharePoint's the same. When I want to refine on my search results, so I've got search results, and there's a bunch of refiners down the left-hand side, that navigation. So I also want to refine it and say, just show me all the stuff from this site, or show me all the Word documents. SharePoint search, other search engines, they'll give you a sample count. So it might say you've put in a word and you're searching for banking, and it might say, look, you've got about 300 words that mention banking, or mentions of banking in either titles or documents, but it's about 300. Fast will give you the exact number. So you want to do deep analysis on your content, then Fast is the tool for you, because it gives you the exact count across your whole corpus. You've got 1 billion documents, it'll give you the exact count of how many times banking is mentioned in those documents. Okay, so we want a precise control over how we rank things. So there's a whole bunch of tuning that comes out of the box in terms of our relevance and ranking and the linguistics, but you do have the ability to tune it, more so than you do any other search engine. So that's one of the extra benefits of Fast. So I have a real control over my ranking profiles, and we'll go through that in more detail when we hit the slides. Okay, so content processing. So we can detect 82 languages. Is that right? I thought it was 81.
Close enough. Give us
81 or 82. So lots. So, and what it does is it just looks at the content in the document and says, this is French, or this is English, or this is Brazilian. And then what it does is it chooses the appropriate linguistic packages that will process that document. There's extensibility. So, for example, what most search engines do is they've got a big bunch of content. Here's my file system or my database that I'm crawling. And it goes through this pipeline, ends up in the index on the other side. So with FAST, what you can do is you can inject yourself at any point or a particular point through the pipeline and extend it. So, and maybe we'll look at some examples later, but rather than it just ended up in the index, I can tweak that content or I can add extra things to it as it goes through my pipeline. And then the other big thing around why I'd want to use FAST is about scale. So does anyone know the number of documents that SharePoint Search 2010 will crawl? What we've tested it to? Still no answer. 100 million. I was just pretending, by the way, not getting that. So it's 100 million documents. So if I'm getting up there, then I may want to consider FAST. So we've tested to 100 million with SharePoint. But if I'm creeping up there, you know, what's the business, what's the long-term growth? Maybe it's something that you look at earlier rather than later because of the FAST, the amount you can scale with FAST. Okay, so here's just a quick diagram. Here's my users, here's my content, and this is SharePoint Search. Okay, so FAST builds on top of this. So I've got my SharePoint Search, and I turn on and decide I want to use FAST Search. So I want all my content indexed by FAST. So the thing that you should be aware of, and there's a couple of things that I see in the forums all the time, people are confused about the search service applications that you use with FAST and with SharePoint. So there are two. But if I want to use FAST Search, all my content now gets processed by FAST. So FAST does all the indexing, does all the word processing, apart from people. SharePoint does a fantastic job on people, so the content will go through FAST, people is done by SharePoint still. Okay, so the install, again, I'm not going to go into too much, but there's more in terms of the guidelines. So, you know, minimum 4 gig, don't use the minimum if you can crawl a bunch of content. But 16 gig, and obviously you want to think about how it's architected in terms of the spindles and how they're rated. So that's all that was about. But the things I do want to talk about is you've got to set some secure certificates. So I've got an SSL because as I feed content through from my content SSA or search service application, it goes through to FAST, then I need an SSL certificate. I also need to set up claims. Does anyone know why you might want to set up claims? Shall I hold that thing up again? You guys probably know now, you're getting it right, not to the end. Okay, so the reason I want to set up claims is because that's how it's going to help me with my security trimming. So you only get back the results. And how? Any guesses how? Probably hear it all the time now with SharePoint. PowerShell, right? So there's a whole bunch of, look, they did a fantastic job when they, in terms of the timelines, when they integrated FAST after the acquisition into SharePoint. But there are still some things that you don't get through the user interface, and you've got to use PowerShell for. But you know, Paul comes from FAST, and he can tell you that in terms of the stuff that you can do through the user interface, rather than using tweaking XML files, we've done a pretty good job.
Absolutely. There used to be a fair bit of hard work prior to SharePoint user interfaces. Okay. So we'll look at this in the demo in a minute, but and this is one of the tweaks that I do. So I do my install, and I get in my FAST search directory, I get this text file. And when I'm setting up my search service applications, I pull the details out of this text file manually and put them into my search service app for the content SSA and the query SSA. So we'll have a look at that a sec. Okay. Switch. Any guys done this? Looked at the search service app? Okay, so I come in here and I go, I want a new search service app. Installed FAST, all the installs done, pre-configuration wizard, etc. I'll give it a name, and I'll call it FAST content. So I've picked FAST search connector, and then there's some details down here. So I'm just going to go to this directory here. This takes me off to my FAST search directory, and here's this install text that you just saw in that screenshot. So what you do, the details here, and here's my collection name down the bottom. You guys see this all right? Yep.
So when I come back in here, I'm just putting these details into here. So the SP goes in here, and it's all very easy. So if I do the same for the query SSA, just ignore the name, fast query. There's a whole bunch of extra text boxes that I need to fill out. This is my query service location, the administration service location. I'll look back inside my text file, and here's all the details here. So I suppose this is one of the things when I talk about that you have to do manually rather than it all happening outside the box. So it's not difficult, but you just kind of need to be aware there are some tweaks that you do. Okay. Okay, so when I'm setting up FAST and I want to know what happens and how the content gets in the index, this is just a bit of an overview of exactly how that content gets into that index, so that when you're designing it, you know how things kind of work. So here's all my content, and what happens now is my content search service application and my connectors pass it all through to the index. There's some extra stuff with FAST in terms of how it can, so you can use, for example, a JDBC crawler as a web crawler, but really the guidance is it needs to be pretty good reasons why you'd want to use this FAST crawling when you can use the BDC connectors. And there may be instances when it's more appropriate to use the FAST web crawler. But pretty much the guidance is just avoid them unless you really need to, and then that extra power is there. So just use the BDC connectors. Okay, so it comes into this content dispatcher. The content dispatcher does a whole bunch of processing. This is where our pipeline is in terms of it extending it. And then what happens is it goes off to this index dispatcher, and the index dispatcher says, okay, I need to split out all the content into my indexes. So how's it partitioned? So if I've got 15 million items, the guidance again is 15 million items per partition. So I've got 30 million items, then I want 2 indexes. But what happens is the index dispatcher has this in-memory kind of, we call it fixML. It's an XML representation of all that index. Gets that fixML in memory, puts it onto the disk, and then what it does is it separates that content out into the indexes. So the reason I'm telling you about this is because if you're ever wondering, oh, look, what happened to this document here? Why aren't I finding it in my results? You've got the tools where you can look inside this fixML and say, okay, well, this is it. It actually appeared before the index. It's got it into the index, so why isn't it getting to the results? So you can kind of analyze what's happening with your content. And it's pretty powerful. So if I want to query it, pretty much similar. As a user, I submit my query. There's a whole bunch of, we call it the FAST security authorization module, and what that does is it looks at your user, splits up the credentials into claims, and then and that's how the security trimming happens. There's a bunch of security trimming on the index, so it knows which content and which users can access it. But as I pass in my credentials, it then says, okay, it's this user, and he's allowed to see these results. So all the security trimming is done out of the box. Okay, and so fitting over the top of that is we've got the SCOM packs that will monitor your FAST server, and PowerShell that fits across the top for administration, as well as the stuff that you get out of the user interface. Okay, so how do I scale it? So you'll hear things like, you'll hear people talking about rows and columns. So rows are about content, and it's about how much content. So if I want to crawl 15 million items, I have a row, and I can separate that row out, that column. I have a column, and I can separate that column out into rows. So I can go, okay, I've got 15 million items here, but I want to scale up. So I can pull the search processor out from the indexer, and so then I add another row. If I've got 30 million items, then maybe I need 2 columns. So that's how you scale it out. It's about rows and columns. And so you can see in this diagram here, content, it's about those columns. If I've got billions of items, I have lots more columns. And if I want more processing on my query so I can have more users accessing that content, then I'm adding more rows. Okay, so let's just have a look at some of the stuff working. Bit of a usability demo. Okay, so hopefully you guys have all seen this. Has anyone not seen any search results before with SharePoint 2010? You just want sticking your hand up? And have you seen search results with SharePoint 2007? Okay. So the new things that, or the big new thing with SharePoint 2010 is one, the scale. We're now up to 100 million items. In terms of usability, it's navigation down the side. So you had to download a thing called faceted search from Codeplex before to get this navigation. So it allows me to refine my documents. So here's my results. This is all out-of-the-box stuff. Oh, you didn't tell me, guys. Okay. Cheers, Paul. I'm glad it must have made sense, though. You must have gone, God, yeah, cool. Don't know what he's talking about, but it makes sense. Okay, so here's the refiners down the side, right? So I've done a search on sales, and there's a whole bunch of content comes back. So if I want to refine that content, I can refine by site. So for the guys who haven't seen this before, I can say, just show me all the content that comes from the G drive. Show me all the content that comes from this website here. So I can refine all this. And this is based on the metadata of the content. So the metadata being things like properties of the document, etc. Pulls them all out, and SharePoint will do that for you, as well as fast. So I want to refine it, and I say, oh, just show me the PowerPoint documents. Show me the Word documents. So let's flick on Word. Filters them all down. Go for it, and I get thumbnails on those Word documents. You can see I've been working pretty hard because there's nothing in my Word documents at the moment, so you have a blank page as a thumbnail. Take it off, and we'll have a look at some PowerPoints. And we get thumbnails of the PowerPoint presentations. So we get these previews where we can look inside the PowerPoint, decide if that's the document I'm looking for. So this is all about productivity gains, right? I don't want to download the PowerPoint document or the Word documents if very quickly I can see through these thumbnails that that's the one I'm trying to find. So again, scroll through them all, and then I can open it up in the browser. In Office Web Apps, PowerPoint will open up in the browser. Okay, so we think of phonetic search now. I'll search for this guy called Chow. And again, so phonetic search is SharePoint search. Search on Chow, so phonetically I'm still finding him. And I kind of kept sticking a few letters in there earlier to see how long it would take before we lose him. Going pretty well. Now if it finds this, he's magic. Oh, there you go. This is magic stuff. Okay, so phonetically we can find all that, and it's all out of the box. So again, there's a whole bunch of stuff in terms of relevance and linguistics that we want to do out of the box and make sure it operates really well. What else have we got? Some chart refiners. So I can have different ways of tapping into my content and refining that content. So I put a refiner at the top here that shows me all my result types. And I can say I just want to refine on PowerPoint presentations. There's some pretty good examples that FAST have been using for things like real estate websites, where you can filter down on price range and drag in the price range charts. So it's pretty powerful, and again, it adds to the extra visualization that you can do with your search results, so you get more out of them. Okay, the BI connector, so if anyone's into BI, then there's a BI connector that comes with FAST, and what that does is I've done a search here on retail, so it looks inside my spreadsheets, looks inside those data sources, and what I can do if I'm from a BI perspective, I can start filtering in saying, I just want to know all the spreadsheets that are pulling data out of our data warehouse or out of the HR data mart. And so I can filter on data sources. So it's very powerful, and the BI guys were pretty excited about seeing it. Okay, so this profile page. So if I'm searching on BDC, and again, you'll get this out of the box for SharePoint search. So it's not it's not just a fast feature, but I can add associations to my database tables. So for example, I'm calling the sales database, I can say, or customers, I can say, I want to associate the sales orders with this customer. And then create a profile page. It's all out of the box stuff, it's all pretty simple. And then when I click on my customer, then I can see all the sales associated with that customer. And this is the standard out of the box profile page that you get. Okay. Okay, so best bet. So what we can do is we can put in keywords and say, if someone searches for HR policy, generally they're looking for this document. And we could add visualizations into those, those search results. So very quickly they can go, architecture is a good one in terms of this. I'll put in scalability. So I've just got an architecture diagram so that people can say, oh yeah, that's what I'm after. I can add a best bet to that result, associate it with a keyword. So if I type this keyword in, there's a document that gets pulled back. So simple tuning that you can do, and business analysts can do, or administrators can do, that, that are going to find the right results for people. So it's about speeding up the productivity again. Okay, so this is interesting now because now we start getting into the pipeline extensibility. So got a bunch of results here, and I want to filter on text documents. So I've put a refiner. What I've done, I've extended the pipeline to say any content that comes through here, I want you to do some sentiment analysis on that document. So I want to find out all the happy documents. And so my code's pretty, not exactly the cleverest piece of code. And I'll just show you it. So what it does is it looks for a bunch of words. I pass in through the pipeline, the content comes in. I associate my content with one of the properties and say, search for any of these words. If this document contains any of these words, then let's consider either a negative document or a positive document. So why is that important? Well, maybe customer services have got a whole bunch of content and they want to know all their disgruntled customers. So let's just see it working here. Here's all my text documents. So I can look for a positive one. This is when you really get wowed. And just to prove that it is positive. Does anyone talk about movies like this? This movie depicts the real and happy times in an engaging way. Works, right? Okay, so, that's a simple example, I suppose, but, if we start thinking, okay, well, how do we use that in real terms? So one is customer service. I want to know what's happening with my content, and I want to find out how my customers are responding. But the other is maybe I'm pulling some content. If I work in banking, want to make sure that any credit cards that are in their documents are encrypted. So I can do that by extending the pipeline. As that document comes through, I do a pattern search on credit cards, find the credit card details and encrypt it so that my users can't start searching on credit cards. Maybe I want to augment the info. So I'll find the info as it comes through the pipeline. Here's an ID. Maybe it's a GST number or maybe it's an invoice ID. I can go off to a database and augment that info with extra details from that database. Okay, and the last one in terms of usability is there's another refiner, and I've added it called price. So I've crawled my database in this refiner down the bottom. What I've done is I've created a managed property and said you are a decimal managed property, and then added it to my refiner. So it's all pretty simple stuff. And now I can search and refine based on the price of details in my database. So anything less than 591. Again, so I can filter my results. Anyone not seen that? Good stuff, eh? I can see you're wowed. If you want to scream, just scream. If you guys are that excited, just scream away. Okay, that's the bit for the usability, so we'll flip back. I covered everything. Oh, here's another example. So some people are using, they're putting things like big maps. All the content comes back and they can map the amount of content to locations. So they filter on, they're building these kind of refiners. Okay, so this is what we call the secret sauce. Agree?
Absolutely.
And it's about extending that pipeline. It's about the content coming through and I want to extend it. So here's just a quick overview and a quick example. It comes through the pipeline. I do a bunch of format conversion on it. I do language detection. So what language is in this document and how do I process it in terms of my linguistics? So lemmatization and stemming. So you'll hear two different things. So stemming is about finding the root of the word. So for example, run, runner, running. The root of the word would be run. So stemmers find that. It's all easy and lots of search engines do it. Where FAST gets more advanced is it does this form of more advanced form of stemming called lemmatization. So things like mouse and mice, a stemmer might not find the root of that word, whereas a lemmatizer will. Better, best, the root of that word is actually good, but a stemmer wouldn't find it. A lemmatizer will find it, and then it will associate it with the correct results. So it allows you to refine it. The entity extraction, I want to look for companies, I want to look for people, I want to look for locations. So the fast search engine will look inside the content of your document. You can associate a bunch of people or places, company names, and it will extract that from the content of your document and allow you to refine it. There's a whole bunch of extra word extraction that I can do. So I can pump in a bunch of words into one of my dictionaries and say, if you find any of this stuff, pull it out and let me refine on it. I can add offensive content filtering. So I can just turn it on, and what it does is it pulls it out and it doesn't get in the index. You can't get into that dictionary and tweak it. It's locked, which is a bit of a shame, because you can learn some pretty good language, by all accounts. And we've touched on the custom extraction. Okay, so let's just have a look at this, extending the pipeline. And this time I'll show you, rather than me just having a look at it. Okay. Let's just get rid of some of these. Okay, so the first thing is, here's my font. So it's basically XML, an XML configuration. So if I want to do offensive content filtering, I just change this to yes. It's inside my fast search directory. In my config data, I don't know if you can see it at the top. I'm not sure how important it is, but because you can look at them later. But there you go. Let's move the mouse back up so you can see it. And everything's in my fast search directory. Let's escape out of that. Here's these whole words extractors. So these are for Asian language down the bottom because they tokenize the words in a different way. So really you guys are interested in the top three, I'm guessing. And it's about the whole word extraction. So I can change that to yes, and then I can pump in an XML file and associate a managed property with that XML extraction, or that whole word extraction. And here's an example of how I've put in these whole words. There's a bunch of stuff down here, products, and CXL. So let me just find the extractor for you. So I've pumped this dictionary in and said I'm just interested in these words here, and I want you to be able to pull them out of the content of the document and allow me to refine on them. And so if we look at my search results, these two PDF files at the top here, they're not Excel files. There's no Excel in the title. But I've pulled Excel from out of the content and refined on it. So if I take that refiner off, there's all the content. My products are down the bottom, so I can refine on stuff that's got SharePoint in it. And it's through that whole word extraction. Okay, so let's have a look how we do it. First of all, I'll just open up this managed properties so you can see how I can associate the XML file, and then we'll look at the managed property extraction here. Okay, so here's companies. I've got one in there. So there's a bunch out of the box that we deliver. And there are a whole bunch of companies that you can't tweak, but you can add extra in there. And you can exclude them. So if I look down here, one of my refiners should see Contoso in there. And there's Contoso inside the company. So again, we'll zoom in so you can see it. So that's not a company that's added out of the box. This is one that I've added through that interface. There it is there. And I'm just going to do a search on products. So this is my managed property. So when that comes back, you'll see at the top here, whole words 1. So what I've done is that whole words XML file, I've just associated that with a managed property called products and pumped it into the search engine. Does that make sense? Yep. And what else was there? Okay, in the sentiment analysis, we've already showed you, but what I might do is just show you how you set it all up. Let's just edit this. And we'll open up this XML file. So when I extend the pipeline, there's a file called pipeline extensibility. And so all I've done here is I said I've got an executable. It's got 2 arguments. It's got my input and my output. My input is associated with the body of the document, and my output is associated with this crawl property. And then I associate that crawl property with a managed property, and then I can refine on it. And how I set it up, basically, here's just a bit of PowerShell. So I created a managed property, a crawl property called sentiment. I created a managed property called sentiment, and I associated them together. So the crawled, everything that you want to refine on has to be a managed property. So basically, I've got this content, it all comes through my pipeline, and the search engine goes, oh, this is a property, and they're crawled properties. So you may not use them, so it just goes, oh, I might associate this with a crawled property. But then when I want to do something with it, I have to manage that property. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's flick back. How are we doing for time? What time do we finish? Does anyone know? 10:40, 11:40, right? An hour. Okay, so we're going to have a look at some linguistics and some relevance. So the art of search is about, you've got the recall and you've got this and precision, and it's always about balancing these two. So recall is, I want to find all the relevant documents, and precision is, how relevant are those documents, and it's a balance of them both. So you might have like this huge recall, but then the precision goes down. So high precision, less recall, and it's about getting the balance right. So here's some of the linguistic features, and again, the engine is about trying to do all this stuff out of the box. It does all its tuning out of the box, but there are some things that we allow you to configure. So language detection we've talked about. The word break and tokenization is just about the different languages and the Asian languages and how it breaks them all up and adds token to those words. Character normalization. What it does is things like accents, takes them all off and normalizes them all. Stemming we've covered. Keywords. So I want to add a keyword because I've looked at my query engine. I can see what everyone's querying on. I can see that they're using these keywords all the time, so I can associate those keywords with the right document. Everyone's searching on HR policy. There's 1,000 documents come back. When they search on HR policy, they actually mean this one. So it's very simple to add a document to those keywords. Anti-phrasing, let's pull out all the stuff that makes no sense. Spell checking out of the box. So there's a whole bunch of spell checking. What it does is it kind of fine-tunes. So we have some spell checking dictionaries. But as the content comes through from your corpus, it will add some of those well-used terms inside the content to those dictionaries. So it does some auto-tuning as well. Offensive content filtering and phonetic search we've kind of already looked at. So let's just have a look at some of these examples working. Shut some of this down. So who's going to run out and start using fast search tomorrow? Everyone. Good on you. If I can help, let me know. I'll bring a keyboard with me. Okay, so I've done a search on SharePoint. It's actually, anyone been to a SharePoint conference? That's a real word, right? Everyone meets in SharePoint. Okay, so out of the box, if that wasn't in a dictionary, it probably, it will be in the dictionary, but if it wasn't in my dictionary because I work in an environment that I'm searching on some pretty gnarly words, the search engine will look at all in the content and go, actually, here's a bunch of words that are frequently used, and add them, auto-tune my dictionary for me. So I can filter on this now and say, okay, sorry, I can click that and say, yes, I did mean SharePoint. And it fixes it for me. Magnificent. You guys have seen that. It's kind of standard. But there's a bunch of spell checking exceptions that I can add. So what I can say is, okay, well, I don't want this to be recognized as a spelling mistake, so I can add that as an exception. And it's all very easy. Just click add the spelling exception and put it in there. So this is all, it's all simple stuff that just doesn't take a lot of time. But if I give it that extra time to tune the results, then my search experience in the organization is going to be a hell of a lot better. Because one thing that we know, and Paul, Paul's been working for Fast a long time, is that we know that, if you stick in a search engine and you get a bunch of results, yeah, it's better than nothing. But if you tweak things a little bit, then you're going to have happy users. Because no matter what you stick in, if you stick something in and do nothing with it, then it's not going to be too long before your users start saying, do you know what, the search isn't that good. Agree? Yeah. But our search is better than anyone else's search. Okay, and there's some keywords. So I can add a keyword here, and I can say, okay, scalability, so let's have a look at this. And I've got some synonyms in there, so I can add a synonym. I can say, okay, people put in sizing. I'm looking for scalability as well. I can add a best bet, so let's go and add that, edit that. And what I've done is put in a URL for a document. Let's cancel that. I can add visual best bets in there. So I just click on, and there's the URL of my image. It's all simple stuff. I can add document promotions and demotions. So there's a bunch of documents that come up time and time again, but for that keyword, it's actually not that relevant. So you can demote them, or you can promote your documents. And what it does, it just gives them a boost. So they may not come up right at the top like a best bet, but it'll boost them up in the relevance. Okay, so let's search on scalability. 17 results. Let's search on expansion. We have 15 results. So let's go into this keyword now and say, do you know what? Let's add a synonym, because when people are talking about scalability, generally lots of them, or expansion, they normally mean the same thing. Add in my keyword. There's a bunch of stuff when I was setting all this up, I had to recall the content. So it was be nice to just say, okay, this is how it works, recall the content, and you can see the results improve. But again, it doesn't make sense. You don't want to sit here for 5 minutes waiting for that content to be recalled. But in this case, it doesn't have to go through the index, so it's already there. So therefore, when I do my search now, let's do a refresh. 15 results in expansion, but what about the ones for scalability? And so it mingles, because I've got a synonym. So it's pretty simple. Someone means this, they actually mean this, and just add it to the list. So manage properties. So this is with stemming. So we'll do, we'll just pick any one. So the stemming is added to manage properties. And it's just simply a case of clicking enable stemming on that property. And in my core results on my, in my search results page, I can decide whether I want to enable stemming in those results. Okay. Back. Exciting? Who's wow? Scream! Woo! Okay, so ranking. Okay, so I want to boost the ranking. So when you, so it's about these 7 components. So each document gets a rank score, and the rank score of that document is dependent on these 7 components. So basically, I search on a keyword, search on finance, a whole bunch of results come in, and each one of those results has a ranked score. So how does it get scored? It goes through these 7 components. It's about things like quality of the document. So things like quality, how short are the URLs? How many other documents refer to this document? So we think about the authority of the document. Is this document considered to be a high authority because it's referenced by 1,000 documents, so therefore it might give it a boost? Is freshness important? So freshness, I want to give it a boost because all the newer documents should have a bit of a boost. Proximity, so how, if I do a search for a couple of keywords, how close are those keywords to each other inside the content of the document? So there's a whole bunch of stuff around these rank profiles that give your documents a boost, and enable that score to be calculated. So I'm going to show you, I'll show you one document, I'll show you the result and how it's scored. But the beauty of something like this is what it means now is you can go, okay, well that result turned up 15th or 100th in these results. So if I'm the search administrator, or if I'm a user and I want to know why it's way down there, I can look at the rank score and I can say, okay, well maybe it was about freshness, maybe it was about the quality of the document, maybe no one's, there's a bunch of documents that link to other documents that are giving those a boost ahead of that. So it just gives you the power to tune that relevance, which is pretty powerful. Okay, so let's have a look at these rank profiles. Okay, so this is the bit that could go wrong, but it won't. It's going to work beautifully. Oh, I got it. And if it did go wrong, you won't be able to see it anyway. I'll say, oh yeah, it worked. It was good. Okay, what I'm going to do is we'll go to this chart search. Search for SharePoint. And while that returns my results, I'm going to just open up the code. Okay, so I'm going to show you where the rank profiles appear on the results page. Let's edit this search actions link web part. It's at the top. And in my display properties, there are a bunch of things that I can add as boosts to my content. So, for example, you could, maybe your marketing people are saying, I want to be able to boost my content based on freshness. So you can check that. It will give you your documents a boost if they're newer. So let's just close this. We'll come back to it in a second. So I'm just going to show you this gnarly document here. So here's the rank score of this result. And scroll all the way down. Do you understand what that means? Me neither. Okay, but the point is, there's a whole bunch of this is why search is such a tricky thing, right? In terms of the search, there's smart people like Paul there working all these algorithms that work out the rank score. And so scroll right the way down the bottom, this nasty, horrible document. There's a whole bunch of calculations that go on, and what I can do is, if I wanted to know why a document appears somewhere, I can look at results, something like this, and say, okay, well, it was calculated. Here's how it calculated the quality or the static ranking. Here's how it calculated the freshness, and here's the rank score for that document. So there's just, and so if I'm that way inclined, then I can decide, okay, well, maybe it's about freshness, so we need to adjust the profiles for freshness, or file extensions, or whatever it is. The point being is that you have the ability to do all this. So it's an extremely powerful engine that you can extend. So let's have a look at how we're going to do something simple, which is create a rank profile for PDF files. So I'm going to get the default rank profile, and I'm going to create one off that for PDFs. I'm going to get the managed property for file extensions, and then what I'm doing here is I'm just giving PDFs a boost here. So let's just run this. It runs away. It's going to come back saying completed with no errors. You guys are going to scream, "Oh, geez, do you see that?" And then we're going to go back to that results page and say, okay, well, that profile should be in, there you go. See, it's adding the boost value to the PDF there in the results. And it's completed. So if you look at this thing about quality weight, authority weight, these are all the part of that rank profile that you can change. You can boost all that. So we've just added a boost for PDF files. Oh, I didn't mean to click that. Let's cancel. And let's go back into this page and edit it. Is it doing anything? Do it again. Edit page. There we go. Let's find that search links web part again. Click edit. And there's my PDF that's appeared. And click OK. And we'll just save and close, and then we'll run the search again, and we should see that PDF in the drop-down. So there's my PDF. So now I want to give my PDF files a boost. And see a few PDF files being boosted up to the top of those results. So pretty simple, right? You want to scream with excitement now? Keyboards? Okay. I think there might be something else we're going to show you on it. Ranking. Okay, so site promotions and document promotions. So let's just have a quick look at those. So it's pretty simple. I want to give a boost to results here based on sites. So what have we got? Let's find blogs. I can add a site promotion, say, you know what, if anything that's in this site's pretty important, so I want to just give it a boost. So let's go and add something. Click add. Okay. Click OK. And then let's just do a search on SharePoint again. And yeah, so look, it doesn't always push it right to the top, it boosts it. So what it will do is it'll look at the other results, but the idea is you can add your site promotions quite easily and quite quickly. And you can also, through your keywords, add in document promotions and document demotions. I think you can see it from the back. So again, very simple. Someone ends in this keyword, just give this document a boost. It's not a best bet right at the top, just boost it up. All simple, right? Okay, we're doing well for time. Okay. Right, back to demos. Let's switch back again. Okay, so this demo, what I'm going to show you now is just how you can build search applications on top of SharePoint, or on top of that search engine. So let's just run this so you can see it working. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call my web service and get the results and just stick it into a graphic a GUI. So click search, away it goes off to the search engine, passes the XML to the search engine, gets my results. And so we can see the ranking here in these results. We scroll across, things like the title, etc. Where is the document? There's a bunch of descriptions. Things like the hit summary. So here's my hit highlights. So here's all the details about the document. I get a collapsed ID in there. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's pretty cool. But if we look at this code, I might just zoom in, give you guys a better look. So query text. So type equals FQL. So this is another fantastic strength about FAST, is you get this fast query language. So it's not just about keywords now, it's about a full and very powerful query language that I can pass across to my search engine and use it in an application. So what do I want? I want to search for cat and dog. I get my results, cat and not dog. And again, I'm just showing you some pretty simple examples. At the back of this PowerPoint is a link off to the FQL site. You can get all the FQL syntax, etc. Point being, very powerful search engines or search applications that you can use to call your fast queries. You don't just have to use it on your website. You can build extra applications that can utilize that search engine. Okay, flick back. Do you mind just pressing that, Paul? Okay, where are we now? Okay, so what I'm going to quickly do, because we've got some good time, we've got 10 minutes left, I'm just going to start from scratch. And we'll build a search site. And we'll add the fast results, add some best bets and some refiners. And then I believe after that we're going to look at some reporting. So I'm just going to flick forward a second. Yeah, so then it's just reporting. I'll just show you where the reports are. But this pretty much then wraps it up. So let's go to my home page. So I'm going to create a new site. And it's a search site. So I'm not going to pick the fast one, because I'm just going to show you some changes. And we'll call it TechEd Search. Correct. With the speed and grace of a fleeting gazelle, search site's there. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to go into the properties and just change it to be a fast search site. So it'll come up because I've created an enterprise search site and I didn't pick the fast search template, it thinks it's a SharePoint site. So let's just do a search on SharePoint. And lo and behold, I've got no results because it's fast. So it's using the SharePoint engine and we haven't got that turned on. So let's go and edit this page. And we'll come down and in my core results, it's going to change it and say get your results from the fast search engine. Someone just left? Does he not know I'm giving away 15 Xboxes? Evidently not. Okay, so let's come in here, location properties, local search results. So I want fast search results. Easily done. Now, if we look at the search links, you see they've got no choice about boosting on relevance or PDFs, etc. It's because it's SharePoint search. So let's change it to fast. Let's go across here and change that to fast search results. Click OK. Okay, so let's do a save and close. And we should get some results. Superb. So let's change the refiners now. I want to refine, you know, that chart refiner. So I've built a web part. Let's go and add that in. The page. And let's delete this. You permanently delete it. So brave. And delete it. Okay, let's add a web part, and we'll go and find my enhanced refinement panel that we've built and add that to the side. Okay, and let's save and close that, just so we can see it working. Screams? Excitement? Okay. So now let's add some refiners. Okay, so here's my chart web part. It gives me some smarts where I can say, look, I want to see all the content in there, or come back up and look at the chart. So, but down the bottom here, what have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 refiners, but we know we added more from the other previous demo, right? We had sentiment analysis, we had price refiner, etc. in there. So I want to add in some new refiners. So I would have to create managed properties out of those. So remember that we're going to miss this step. You go to the managed property website, web page, and add those managed properties. So let's add that. They've already been done. So we're going to come in here, go to my refinement panel, click Edit. And we're going to come up here and look inside my refinement. So this decides, hey, what kind of chart do you want? So, pictorial. So inside this web part, I had a few choices. So I'm going to come down to here and look at the category definition. And I've already got one. Somewhere. There it is. So here's the other categories that I've added. So price, sentiment, and products. So rather than adding those three, you know, this is the standard one at the top. Let's just add the whole lot just to make life easy, and there's less chance of me putting it in the wrong place. Come in here, Control V. So there's price that's in there. Click OK. And click OK. And click Save and Close. Do you think you're going to be there? Not there. Why is that? Anyone know? Ah, clever man. Okay, so let's go back. Don't ask me why. There's a little checkbox that says default configuration. So you go and change it, and if you don't uncheck the default configuration, guess what? It flicks back to the default configuration. Obvious, really, right? Click OK, uncheck that default configuration, and click OK. Click Save and Close. And are they there? Let's just search. Oh, all right, one more thing. Let's go back. Edit page. So they are there, but the other thing you've got to change is the amount of categories that you want to look at. I knew that. I was just testing to see if you guys are going to tell me about it. Because I had one of those connect boxes, but you didn't tell me, so we'll have to keep it, right?
Okay, my living room.
Okay, scroll across, and in my refinement, and let's change that to 20. So where were we when I needed you? Yeah, true. Well, let me do a bit myself, eh? Okay, save and close. Right, do I bet my house on it? Yes, I do. And there they are, so there's the refiners. So it's quite simple, right? So you just go to the managed properties, you add a managed property, and then you just add that category in the refiner, and it's there for you. And therefore you can refine your content on it. Very simple. So let's just go and add a couple of best bets now. So what we'll do is we'll come into our site actions and go to site settings and my top level. So here's my fast search keywords. And what I'm going to do is, someone give me a keyword. Tech ed. Tech ed. Keyboard. So let's come back in here and we'll do a search on tech ed. Nothing. So as we really do see it work, we'll add in scalability because we know that works, right? My two-way synonym. Oh, it's already been defined. It's not going to let me do it. So that's a bit of a gotcha. So if you already defined it somewhere else as a keyword, it can't be a synonym because it already exists. So my keyboard. Well, let's just make sure we've got some results for keyboard, or no results for keyboard, or some results for keyboard. Keyboard. Loads. Keyboard. So when people search on tech ed, obviously what they really mean is keyboard. Stuff. Win stuff. Search on tech ed. And there's my results. Screens. Excitement. Okay, so just one last thing, which is the reports. So this is really to just show you where they are. So there's a whole bunch of reporting analysis around how you can, what's happening when you crawl the content, what's happening in certain types of content, what happens as it comes through, you know, all the stuff around latency, what happens when a user issues a query, how long is it taking to get the results. So all those queries exist, all those reports exist. And of course with MON what you can do is look at how the server's performing. So, and there's some stuff around the service pack, but really let's just have a look at some of these reports. And then we're pretty much done. I've got 2 minutes left. So reporting. And so here's my admin reports. So my administrative report library, got a central admin. And here's all the search admin reports. So crawl rate per content source. How long is it taking to crawl the content in this source? So for those of you who are unaware about content sources, it's just it's a source of what I'm crawling. So a content source could be Auckland. I'm crawling Auckland. That's my content source. In your organization, my content source could be the file system. Here's a content source. Another one could be my website. So I want to know what's happening when I crawl the file system. Is it taking a long time? And if it is, why? Then I can start making adjustments. So I get all these reports. So let's just have a look at one. Because I have different applications, I can say, well, what am I reporting on? Well, I want to check on my fast content search service application. And let's just change that date to the 1st. Run a report. Apply the filters. And I get all the details. So how long does it take to crawl the flat files? How long does it take to crawl, that's my content source, by the way. I just called, and I just gave it a name, flat file. Fast Contoso, that's all my websites. Sentiment test files, that's when I created a content source, and I said, I just wanted to crawl those text files. So how long is it taking to crawl those things? So if your search engine, for example, is not pulling back results, and your users are saying, my document's been there for a long time, you can look at these reports and say, okay, well, that's because it's taken 14 hours to crawl this file system. And why is that? Well, maybe it has to route itself about 55 times before it gets there, depending on how the IP is set up. So maybe that's the issue. Maybe it's in fact to do with permissions. Maybe there's some errors, so you've got a whole bunch of error logs that you can look at. The point being, these reports exist, and if I want to know more about them, What do? What would you do if you worked in Fast, Paul? Fly to Oslo by all accounts.
That's right.
So now we've got all these great help files. So I want to learn more about the reports. It all exists. So I click and analyze, and it will tell me all about the types of reports that I can run. They're all in there. Gives me some details. There are some of the reports that you have to run PowerShell to enable. Query latency is one of them. So what happens when I issue a query? What's the latency in terms of getting the results back? They haven't enabled them by default, so you just run PowerShell. And the PowerShell commands are there. And so on that note, we are done deal. So what I'd like to say is please fill out the evaluation forms. They measure them and they look at them really closely and make the tweaks. And if anyone would like to ask some questions, if anyone's done a whole bunch of fast integration now, then Paul, the fast engineer, is here for a couple of days. We can set up meetings with you afterwards to come and talk to you as a customer, or we can just have a catch-up outside. Now this here, this Microsoft Signed Winder, is for the questions outside. So nice present for your kids for Christmas. So we'll meet outside here. If there's loads of us, maybe we decide to go somewhere else to keep out of the way of everyone. So